Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. One of the coolest things about the original Xbox was Xbox Live, which launched in 2002. It allowed users to connect their console online and not only play with people across the globe, but also download updates and DLC for their video games. This had been done on the Dreamcast before, and of course on the PC, but the Xbox really pushed DLC on consoles with its easy-to-use downloading service. With the shutdown of Xbox Live, it is harder to obtain these, but luckily, we have some people preserving gaming history and getting us these DLCs for Xbox today. Today, I chose 6 games with DLC to discuss. They're in no order, and I just thought they would be fun to talk about. But let me know in the comments below some of your favorites, and I will discuss them next time. I also want to say Halo 2 and Splinter Cell are not here today because I think both of those are so solid that they deserve a video of their own. All footage was captured from an original Xbox, and I'd like to thank my channel members for their support. Thank you, and let's go ahead and hop into this list. Let's start with Brute Force, an extremely divisive Xbox exclusive upon its launch. The hype for this game was unmatched, with many thinking it would be the next Halo when it launched in 2003. It did get decent reviews, but many were disappointed and felt it did not live up to the hype. I was in that crowd, but luckily, the game has grown on me a little bit. It's a squad-based third-person shooter with you swapping between 4 characters to shoot up many different creatures that flow at you. It's a fast, action-packed experience, and it has its flaws, but for what it is, you can have a good time with it. Brute Force had 3 pieces of DLC, with the first being a single-player campaign level called Lockjaw. This is a challenging level in a hilly area. There's a distress beacon on the planet, and you rush in with your team of 4 to figure out where the distress beacon is coming from. Come to find out, it is a trap and you are ambushed, and you must use your team to take out the enemies coming at you. It's that simple. You have to fight off waves and get picked up to safety. It's a level all about shooting, and I'll have to say the DLC story-wise is not that interesting as a whole. Only a little is added to the plot, and it feels like an excuse just to have another level into the game. The gameplay is fun, and if you want a challenge, it's here. You cannot rush into waves and expect to survive. You have to set up your team strategically to win this level. I ended up having to have multiples go to the top of hills so the AI could get them up top while I used a stronger character on the ground. This level does a good job of using character dynamics and working with the AI, which I do love to see. The area itself is a little bland, but I like the look of Brute Force. It has that Xbox style that matches a cartoony look with realism, and I just love to see it. Overall, I wouldn't say that this level is a must download for anyone except for huge fans of Brute Force. The next 2 DLCs were multiplayer maps, but this game did not support Xbox Live, which is a huge bummer. These maps only work locally or over a system link. One is for the deathmatch mode called Cerulean. This map occurs in space and has you only playing one character, dueling against others. This map is fun, though it is a bit tiny. It has a lot of purples and tons of teleports. They are everywhere and it will throw you all around. I do like the alien design of the structures, and the skybox of space is actually quite pretty. I wouldn't say there's a ton of secrets going into this one, but I do like the added bit with the acid water. I think this is a fun little map to run through. The final DLC is my favorite of the bunch, and that's for the squad deathmatch map, Prisoner's Lament. This enormous map has 3 industrial and dark bases on multiple sides. It's a maze of graded walkways and lower level tunnels. The map needed to be huge because it's a squad-based multiplayer mode. You have a team of 4 just like the single player, and you move them and position them to take out the enemy. It's a fight to see who has the best squad. There are multiple sightlines and places to post your team members on this darkened map, and it's fantastic. I like seeing so many nooks and crannies of buildings, and it's a great time to explore. I could see the squad management gameplay being a ton of fun here, and it makes you wish that this mode got Xbox Live support. So with the DLC overall, I'd say the multiplayer maps are solid, but the single player level isn't the best. But it's cool to get multiple extra things for Brute Force. The next game we're going to talk about is one of my favorite Xbox exclusive racing games, Rallisport Challenge 2. It's a rally racing game that looks excellent on the Xbox and has smooth and fun controls. It also has so much to do with tons of unlockables. On top of that, this game was released with 2 DLC packs, in the first including new cars and new career modes. The new career modes have nothing new besides a new structured way to play through courses. It adds new times to beat and challengers. The mountain climb career mode is focused on hill climb races that have you going up. These are some of my favorites in the game, so I'm happy to see more of that here. And then there's also Arena Challenge mode, which has you doing ice racing and rallycross. They are fun as well and are suitable for someone who prefers racing other cars on a track over time trials. The Arena mode is also a robust career mode with so much to go through. Unlocking everything in the game is a long process, with some paint jobs taking multiple miles of driving just for one car, so these are a great excuse to play and get those. You also get 4 new cars: the Volvo Amazon GT, the Saab 96, the BMW X5, and the VW Touareg. All these are solid cars, and I love the vintage cars that bring something oddly unique into the game. I'd say this is worth the download just for the extra cars, but the extra career mode would be excellent for anyone just wanting to get a little extra mileage out of the game. The other DLC pack only adds new paint jobs to every vehicle. It's 2 paint jobs for every car. Luckily, you don't have to grind to unlock these like the other ones, and you have some funky colors that I think are cool. This DLC pack is fun, but it only adds a little bit to the visuals in the game. But overall, I'd say both sets of DLC are worth getting for any Rallisport Challenge fan. Let's hop into a first-person shooter with Rainbow Six 3. The Rainbow Six games were staples of Xbox Live on the Xbox back then, and it had some great multiplayer. They had tons of DLC on the Xbox, and for Rainbow Six 3, we received a lot of multiplayer maps to look around in, and there's some excellent stuff here. First off is one of the best, with Carnival. This one is set during a Mardi Gras parade in New Orleans, and the details on this map are great. From the posters aligning the walls, the great details on the floats, and the party sounds that get softer when you enter buildings. Even the architecture gives off a New Orleans vibe. Along with that is a labyrinth of buildings overlooking the parade floats, and it's a cohesive, well-themed, and tightly designed map that is one of my favorites. Next, we have Close Quarters, which is just like the name implies. There are many tight corridors in what seems like a training area. It's a design that has a lot of concrete and wooden boards, so I wouldn't say the look is excellent, but the level of design is solid. It has a ton of verticality and a large basement area to lurk around in. The way the hallways wind makes it feel like you could be snuck up on at any moment. It's a solid map in design, just not in look. The garage is next, and this is another excellent one. I have some footage of myself playing this one online. This map takes place in a car dealership encompassing the showroom and the maintenance areas. The details are lovely, from the maintenance bays that have tools, the showroom that has cars on display, and I love how the second floor looks down on the showroom and even has frosted glass. There's also candy machines scattered everywhere to make it feel cohesive. I think this one has a maze-like feel that works well for multiplayer, and it's also just plain fun to look at. This is a great one from this pack. Meat Factory is next, and it takes place in a meat factory. It has dead animals hanging from the ceiling, and everything feels freezing. The hum of the freezer in the background is a nice touch. This map has a cold industrial feel that captures the vibe of a place like this. This one is sometimes confusing to walk through, but it would be fun to learn in multiplayer. The team that made these maps found a nice balance of uniqueness with tightly designed locations. This is another solid map. Parkade is next, and it takes place in a parking garage. This is the first of the bunch that feels like a map that would be in the base game or any other game. It's a simple map with a bunch of ramps and levels with cars. It has a good sense of size and would be fun in game, but it just doesn't have strong detail like the other maps. I like this little section where the railing is broken and you can jump between the levels, and I'm sure it's fun online, and its simple design would work well. It just doesn't really stand out. We have Sharon's next, which is a warehouse level. This is another one that doesn't really stand out to me. I do like the mesh overhangs that look down on the warehouse below, but the layout just isn't that crazy. It's a basic level, but that's okay because I'm sure it's a good one in multiplayer. The final piece of DLC is the map Train Yard, which is precisely what the name implies. I like this one because it has a nice entrance and you can go under trains, and there's small bursts of color in the concrete layout. This map reminds me of something you would find in Counter-Strike, and I like that feeling. This one seems to have great vantage points and corridors for some great shooter gameplay. Overall, the maps in Rainbow Six 3 are solid, with some not being striking, but the good maps are excellent. This one is well worth checking out, and if you have the Xbox Live Replacement Program Insignia, you really should play this one online. Next is another Xbox Sports Network game with Amped 2, the sequel to the snowboarding Xbox exclusive. This entry added online play, and it's an absolute blast of a snowboarding game, mixing arcadey gameplay with a simulation approach. Amped 2 would get a DLC for one mountain added in called Slopestyle. This would add 3 new runs with it. You could board down either the tallest point with Pioneer Course, or the 2 smaller ones. For a new mountain added to the game, there isn't a great amount of pizzazz to make this an essential download to the game. It's just a simple mountain with jumps and grinds. All the setup is fine without anything genuinely worth pointing out. But that's not to say that it's not fun, because it's Amped 2. The snowboarding feels excellent, and it's an excuse to play even more Amped 2. But it's not doing anything spectacular. It was free then, and it's free now. So it works as an additional piece to the package, but many of the main courses are better. It's nothing notable other than being an addition to a great game, so if you just like Amped, I'd say it's worth downloading. Next is a motocross game that I enjoyed back in the day, MX Superfly. It's a fun entry into the genre with circuits and freestyle courses to do tricks and race in. The DLC for this game gives you a ton of riders to pick from and 2 new maps for freestyle. The first map is Mall Jump that takes place in a mall. This one is just plain fun, with many ramps to hop between the different levels of the mall. You can also jump across promenades, and it makes for a great setting for an extreme sports game. Wreaking havoc in a mall is a great idea, and the level layout here is solid. I also loved riding around and checking out all the food in the food court. There's not a lot of intricacies here, but it makes up for it with being a fun setting and a great download. The other map is Backyard Bash, and this one is better than the mall one. It's a giant backyard of a mansion with great jumps off of balconies and the pools, or you can go in ancient ruins that just happen to be in this backyard. There's Roman columns and underground tunnels that layer the map, all with great trick spots and chances to get some insane air. I was surprised by the excavation tunnels in the ruins. Exploring them was a blast. What could have just been a simple mansion and a pool map becomes entertaining and adventurous with these added layers. This one is well worth playing. And on top of that, you get a ton of characters and bikes. They don't add much to the game, but it's a fun side addition. You get Amber and Discoteca, Baller and Swoosh, Bones and Pharaoh, Bubba and Armor, Crystal and Storm, Dynamite and Vega, Joe Bob and Ambush, Lynn and Islander, and Tank and Enforcer. If you need more variety in Superfly, it's well worth adding this in, but the 2 extra maps are a great time, and I'd recommend checking those out. The final DLC we are talking about today is for MechAssault. The Xbox Live launch title was incredible for the Xbox. It was an online mech battle game with great explosion effect and excellent gameplay. This game had a ton of DLC, which is awesome to explore. First of all, 4 mechs were added to this game with DLC. The light mechs, the Raven, and Corvus, both of which move really fast. You also got heavy mechs, Hellbringer, and Loki. These are heavier and slower, and all of these play differently enough, and they're fluid enough to become standouts in the mech lineup. On top of that, we have a ton of new maps to explore, the first one being Hell's Kitchen, which is an industrial map. It's dark and feels like a dystopia, and I love that. The towering buildings feel grim. It feels like you're destroying already a deeply destroyed area, and it really works for MechAssault. The flame effects rise high, and they remind me of some of the areas in Blade Runner. This is a neat map to run around in. Next is Stone Cold, which is an ice level that I quite enjoyed. There's a constant snow effect that fills the screen, but mostly it's a flat, icy surface. I think this would be a good map for simple deathmatch games over destruction. All of the buildings are tiny, but that means the sense of scale works really well here. And it's a cool one to stomp in and take in the cold atmosphere. Demolition Town is a great map taking place in a walled-off city. The high borders rise around the buildings and towers, and the scale of these buildings against your mech is awesome. I love the different levels of terrain throughout. with the bridges that go over the roads and the different sectors of the city. There's some interesting building designs, and I love when you shoot them, the lights flicker out. This is the kind of map MechAssault was built for, to allow you to destroy a town as you fight in it. My least favorite of the bunch is Rock Solid. This is a rocky cavern level, as the name would imply. It does have cool rock designs that define the landscapes along with the geysers, but there's just not much destruction or variety in the terrain to make it stand out. The gameplay here would work well, but the canyon design is simplistic compared to some of the great maps we get. Another DLC MechAssault would add new game modes to the multiplayer. First is Giant Killer, which has one person playing as a giant mech, and everyone else is little, trying to take down the giant mech. This was a staple of this multiplayer, and I remember hearing about it a lot. It's such a fun idea. There's also Scout Match, which is a game mode only for light mechs to fight in, and Skirmish, which is a mode only for light and medium mechs to fight in. And finally, Capture the Flag was added to the game, which is a classic game mode for any multiplayer game. 3 maps were added to the DLC specifically for Capture the Flag. First is Midtown Mayhem. This is a well-designed level with 2 bases on either side of the town. There are 2 lanes on the side of the city to try to flank the enemy base. The most exciting path, though, is directly through the city. This has a great sense of scale with towering buildings and parking garages to destroy and topple. And it's all picturesque in this green setting. The paths through the city and on the side make this map very tactical, leading to incredible multiplayer matches. Next was Desert Storm, a sandy level that doesn't have much to destroy, but makes up for it by being thoughtful. There are 2 far-off left and right lanes and a middle ground, separated by canyons filled with water. Both bases sit on either side, separated by bridges. This is tactical because there are a ton of flag entry points, and you must have an excellent team to block them effectively. There's not much going on in the terrain besides rock and sand, and the draw distance isn't great, but I think there is a great level design here, and I enjoyed the lighting of the sun. It's not a bad map at all. The final map for CTF is Jotunheim. This is a snow level and the smallest Capture the Flag map. Not that that's a bad thing. I do think the smaller design is made up of excellent terrain variety. There's ice bridges to climb over and under, icebergs to jump over, and a tiny Antarctica base at each end. It's all tightly close together, and there are few entry points. This would be a chaotic map that sounds like a blast. The final 2 game modes added to the game were Check It and Take It. Check It involves going to multiple checkpoints on a map and capturing them, and Take It is a play on CTF, in which you take something from the enemy base, but you have to capture points along the way. 3 more maps were added just for this game mode. City Under Siege is the coolest of the 3, taking place in different walled-off sections of a city. Each one feels industrial with buildings to destroy, but separated by long stretches of road and wooded areas. It's segmented really well, and it allows multiple sectors to defend and attack. I love the small details of the sewer pipes dumping out of the city. It's a map that works really well for MechAssault. Magma Fields is a map set on a lava area with bubbling volcanoes and lots of red. It's reminiscent of that finale from Star Wars Episode 3, which hadn't happened yet. This is a long level to go through, making it feel like a long battle to capture points along the way. I love the feeling of this level with its dark look, and all of the magma everywhere makes it such a fun setting for a mech game. It's a fun one to mess around with. And the final piece of DLC is the map Secret Outpost. This snow level is tighter designed than the other 2, and I love the work that went into it. There's a ton of hills and buildings scattered around, and the snow effect is a nice touch. This one feels like a brutal battlefield. It works really well because of a point I keep bringing up. All of this DLC has a great sense of scale. There's a sense of how large you are in these environments, and it's such a fun feeling larger than life and absolutely destroying these areas. MechAssault overall has so much DLC to work with, and it was a blast to run through it and look around. If you play any type of multiplayer for MechAssault, this DLC is a must-add to your game because it doubles the amount of places to go and things to do. This was the type of game Xbox Live was made for. But that does wrap it up for today. I know there's a ton of DLC I didn't talk about, so be sure to let me know in the comments what you want to hear about next, and I will do a sequel video. Leave a like as it really helps out my channel, subscribe to keep up with retro Xbox content, and I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members, campers, and camp counselors. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.